And where are you in the world, and did you surf today?
No, I didn't. I am in Surrey, which is like 40 minutes from London. I live in Scotland normally, where they've just opened a wave machine, which I'm yet to try out, but it's like the first one in Scotland. I think there's only one other one in the whole of the UK in Bristol, but that's a pretty big deal, so that'll be nice. Um,
That's huge. And what kind of I know there's like a bunch of different technologies. You know, like what's the wave like?
oh yeah, I have no idea. It literally just opened, so I really don't know much about it. I mean, I have to say, I'm not really a huge surfer. I'm more of a skateboarder, but I made a surf film, so it kind of gives me the fear. But I mean, I do surf, but I kind of suck. But I kind of got the fear, like, I got caught in a riptide wi- about like 2 years ago, and I got really scared, and then like was like, "Fuck this! I'm sticking to skateboarding. Skateboarding doesn't try and kill me." Um, but I'm determined to get back into it.
Well, I guess in the wave pool you wouldn't have to worry about the riptide struggle.
Yeah, it's true. And that was at a really remote spot, like really remote. We had to hike for like 3 hours to get there, like carrying the boards in Scotland on the north coast, like crazy wind. I became a human sail. Um, and also it was like a short hardboard, and like I said, I'm not a confident surfer, so I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Um, and then yeah, I was out in the water, and I was wearing two wetsuits, and I was like, this is it, I'm gonna die.
So
Really.
I guess I feel like I have so many questions, and I am really excited about this conversation. But I guess talk about what it was like growing up in Scotland, and how you even got into surfing in the first place.
Well, I grew up here in Surrey, on a farm with lots of animals, and I moved to Scotland when I was 18. So I guess I did some growing up there. Um, it was great growing up here. Uh, I got into surfing when I was like 14. Me and my friends used to go away to Cornwall every summer, on a surfing holiday, uh, and surf Newquay. And I had a few scary experiences there, but we all kind of sucked, and we would all surf like nice floaty boards, and it was so fun. Like Cornwall's a great place. And I had a great time every year, and I did a bit of surfing in Morocco, once as well for a week, and that was really good. And then when I moved to Scotland when I was 18, I went there for uni, and that's when I found skateboarding, and co-founded a girls non-binary and queer skate collective called Skate Boobs, in 2019, and I became obsessed with skating. I just loved it so much. I loved sort of carving out that space for ourselves. Sorry, I think that was my phone. Maybe it was yours.
I think it
Um,
was mine actually. I just closed that application.
yeah, I'll do the same actually while we're here. So yeah, Skate Boobs was like really liberating, because just having sort of friends to go with to the skate park was life changing, because I just always felt really embarrassed. And then I didn't really surf much. I surfed a bit because there is like quite accessible waves in Scotland. I mean, moving to Scotland like blew my mind, because you can go surfing and then you can go snowboarding in the same day. So I was like, this place is epic. Um, but yeah, I wish I could say I grew up in Scotland, but I didn't. And everyone from the UK will be able to tell from my accent, because it's very English.
And what did you study in uni there?
Filmmaking.
Okay.
Yeah, practical filmmaking. It was great. I think they're going to close that course down now, because the arts, I don't know what it's like over there, but the art industry here is suffering. So
Is it?
I'm glad I got to study that when I did. Um, and that's when I made
And
White Horse.
what were your goals in that moment? Like, well, what did you or what do you want to do in the film industry?
Um, well, when I went to uni, I thought I wanted to make fiction films. Um, And then I got commissioned to make a documentary when I was in second year, which was about this artist making Scotland's first COVID memorial, called Your Next Breath, and it was this beautiful sculpture. And we followed him making that. They were 4 bronze sculptures. Because I really love art and making art and artists and creative people. I just love getting to watch them. And that kind of led me down this route of like, oh, I actually love documentary and true stories and all this stuff. And then I guess that paired with sort of women in outdoor sports like skating, made a little thing about skate boobs. Skate boobs was doing some stuff, like we did some work with Surf Dome, and we did some stuff with Converse, and Red Bull, and then this gave me some connections and made me think like I want to like explore that space. And then when I was on that surf trip I was telling you about, I had this idea, which was the idea for White Horses. And so I'm not really answering your question. I guess directing in general is what I always knew I wanted to do. And now I run a film company, which I get to do, which is different to directing because you're sort of like running the company, which has a lot more boring things, but I still really like it because it's like I've got a little baby. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I like it. There's no order that where this conversation has to go. We can just let it flow, because that obviously one of the questions I was going to ask you is about White Horses and what made you want to create that film, and how did the original vision for it change as you actually went to create it?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess the first idea was when I was on that trip walking, and it's very boggy in Scotland, and it was a long walk, and we were carrying a lot of stuff, and I've always loved horses, and animals. I just love animals. I love being around horses. I love doing long distance trekking on horses as well. And then it made me think like, I wonder if anyone's ever combined the two, surfing and horses. So I started thinking about it and doing some research, trying to look for someone, because I wanted to direct the film. I didn't want to be in it myself. I'm also a shit surfer, so I was like, it can't be about me. So I started asking people, do you know anyone who likes both things? Then I heard of Emily Grimes, who runs Northeast Surf, a surf school in Northumberland, and is an epic surfer and just an epic human in general. And I heard that she loved horses and loved surfing. She is surf obsessed, like completely obsessed with it. So I kind of reached out. Actually, first I reached out to someone else who was like doing really well in surf competitions in the UK at the time, and like a really big up and coming surfer. And I reached out to her and seeing if she was interested, but it wasn't really the right fit. And then I met Emily, and she's like just totally obsessed. And when we met in person, I just knew it was going to work. We had the same like aligned dream of like combining horses and surfing. I think she'd originally discovered surfing when she was a horseback tour guide in Australia, and so the two had a bit of overlap. She'd once taken a surfboard to the beach on horseback and stuff, and so we started exploring this idea of like combining horses and surfing, the two outdoor sports. How do they work? The idea for me was like, surfers generally have this like obsession with controlling it, like best wave, best board, like who's had the best sesh. Like skaters are kind of the same, like Emily would go and scout all the waves before every surf. She'd drive around to every single spot with all her surfboards so she could get the max out of the session and like really beat herself up if she didn't. Whereas like with horse riding, you're sort of at the mercy of the animal, and like you trying to fight it and control it like will not get you anywhere. So I thought this would be like, and you go slowly, and like a lot of the time like it just doesn't fucking work. So then you have to be okay with like, okay, this, we're working together. And then I think there's a bit of overlap there with the water, because you're sort of working with the water, and if the waves aren't working for you, then you do have to be like, fuck it, this isn't happening. So we went down this journey of exploring that, and I pitched it to Roxy and Red Bull, who I had some contacts with them because of Skate Boobs, and they were up for it. And then they funded it, which was amazing and like made me feel really lucky. I was still in uni at the time, so I was really a bit out of my depth, pardon the pun. And we did the trip, and I booked it for April on the north coast of Scotland, which is meant to be pumping. Like, that is meant to be really reliable surf. And it was flat, like literally completely flat the whole week. Like nothing, not a fucking ripple. Actually, that's not true. There was one day where it was all right, like quite small, but we thought we were going to get massive waves and it'd be like this hardcore film. And I guess that was interesting too, because it made us think, like, even though I was trying to combat all these expectations and obsessive like things about surfing, I had put that on it, and like we had both done that, and we like had these ideas like, yeah, you'll be surfing these like massive waves and all this. And then because there was no waves, the film really became about like moving slower and accepting what you get and like enjoying what you get out of surfing, and like stop putting all that crazy pressure on yourself to have a good sesh and ride and catch a good wave. Like it takes the fun out of it. And like the only there was 2 times Emily got waves, only one time really that it was like actually a good wave. And like we're up there filming her, you know, we've got a big crew and like got a tight zoom on her, and I can just see her going like, and I can just see her shouting and like getting so angry. And then like in an interview a bit later on, I was asking her like what was going on for you there in the surf, because I guess from someone who's not obsessed with surfing, you just look at it and you think like, why aren't you happy? You've got a good, there's your wave, this is what we wanted, like great, have fun. But the pressure, I guess, was even more amplified because there's a film crew there and she only gets one shot, and like all this pressure on her to get a good surf. And like it led us down really interesting conversations around why do we do that. So it turned into something completely different, the film, and then Red Bull and Roxy didn't want to distribute it anymore. They were like, where's the waves? I was like, I don't know, that's what the film's about. And then they were like, we don't want it. And I was like, okay, fair enough. It's fair enough, they're a surf brand, they want good surfing, we got no waves.
Yeah, I mean, did you think about, because I know a lot of trips where, yeah, you shoot all the like, you know, the B-roll and the hero shots and the lifestyle, and then you don't get the surf, and you could just like add on like another trip later to like edit in the footage. Like, did you think about going down that route? Or
I did, yeah, I thought about it, but I just would rather it was like authentic. I mean, the conversations that came out of it for me were more valuable than like good surf shots. Like you can watch good surfing anywhere, but I thought what we were actually dealing with and exploring was like way more interesting. And I think going back out there in order to catch good surf, to make it look great and like show like good wave, good wave, good wave, just like adds to that pressure of like you need to be catching a good wave all the time. And also, sorry, I just burped. And also, it was fucking so sunny on the north coast of Scotland, which never fucking happens. So there's no way I would have been able to cut it together. Like, I spent a lot of time in the Highlands, and that was mental that week. I did not know what was going on. I mean, the filmmaker side of me was like, this is fucking beautiful, great light, so cinematic. I mean, it looks great, but trying to cut it in with like shots of her surfing in normal weather in Scotland would not work. So I was like, I have to accept what we've got.
yeah, I mean, the filming is beautiful. Like that was really what stood out for me, was just that like all of the gorgeous, you know, shots that you got. It's incredible. And I love at the end too, when it seemed like the swell came like right at the end, right? Like the last day or something, and there was this like conversation where, well, I could stay and surf, but nah, I want to go home. And I thought it was so interesting that that
Yeah.
is where it went.
Same, yeah. Like we'd spent this whole week being like, we want waves, please give us waves. And then like it was this like massive like wave coming in where we were in Thurso on the last day. And it was right there. She could have had it if she wanted it. But she was like, I think we've achieved what we wanted to achieve, and the trip was great, and I don't want to like end on some note of like some stressful, big, sizey, messy, sloppy surf. And I was just like, great. I feel like that's like way more powerful. But Roxy and Rebel did not agree, but that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. It's an interesting conversation to have because it's true. It's like you're just like you're almost there, and you're like, nah, that's fine. That's enough.
Yeah.
We don't want to we don't want to force it. I don't want to feel pressure. Like I did like watching it, and honestly, like I didn't realize that she isn't you. Like I think when I was watching it, like I thought that you were the main character, and
Until
then
this
there was
point.
like, huh? Until
Until
this point, until just now, when you're
no.
talking about like, oh, this other person, Emily, and she, this and that. Like, I literally thought that she was you, and that I was going to ask you about like what it was like to like hire a film crew to go and like capture your experience. So I only just now realized it. But yeah, I was struck. So now I feel like I can ask you the questions. I can ask you the questions more like differently, realizing that she isn't you. But yeah, I think watching it, like I say again.
You should get Emily on to talk to Emily about it then.
We shoot. Well, yeah. But like I think that part of me almost did feel like well, in one hand, like I get what you're saying that like it is authentic because like, having been a professional surfer myself, that been like I've gone and been in those shoots, and like I can totally identify with that stress of like, hey, we're supposed to get waves and people are paying us to be here, and like the whole point is to get waves and we don't have waves, and like what are we going to do? And that feeling that pressure of like finally there is a little bit of wave and everybody's watching and you better friggin' perform. Like I can identify with that, but at the same time, like hearing her, it was like part of me was like, yeah, good for her for being like honest about that. Like I did appreciate like her honesty in talking about how hard it was and like feeling that pressure. But at the
Mm.
same time, I feel like I was left with this feeling of like, oh come on, like overcome it. Like
Well, I go.
almost wanting to see that like, okay, you're like building up this character of like all this struggle or whatever, and then she's like, nah, I'm over it, I'm out of here.
That's interesting. Well, so you feel like she should have surfed that big wave at the end?
Again, I'm not going to tell her what to do. She's got to do her, like, but and maybe this is just the holdout from me being on those trips and like just I like internalizing the feeling that yeah, that's what you got to do. Like you're there to do it and like acknowledge like there's definitely like health and normalcy in like naming those feelings and acknowledging that pressure. But I feel like as a like it did feel that little bit of like, oh, she like wimped out, or like I don't know, maybe I shouldn't feel that way, but I did end feeling that way.
I know what you mean. I mean, like it's a huge pressure and like it's a huge expectation. Like at the end of the day, it is a surf film, and like it's the same as skating. Like when we're filming an edit for a brand, like someone like Etnies or Converse will come up to film something, and like it really takes the fun out of it for me. Like I find it really stressful, like having to get this trick, and then it's like you're like obsessing over getting like landing the trick, and you can't land it, and then if you don't land it, you just feel like complete shit, and like then it's like, what is the point of this sport for me? If it's making me feel like this, like it's a sport. Why am I taking this so seriously? And when the film crew's there, it's just so huge. So and like, so I get it from her side as well that like she really wants to get that for us as a film crew, but also I think then the relationship that we developed over the course of it and like all these conversations we had, and I was really trying to like just be like, there's no pressure, do what you want to do. And I think she had some reasons to be getting home as well, and like her mind was elsewhere, and I think she just felt like it would like completely take the fun out of it, and and maybe that it could be more powerful as a message to be like, fuck that, I'm not doing that, I'm doing this for myself and I don't want to do it. And I thought that was really powerful, but the filmmaker inside of me making a sport film was like, go get it, go surf, man, get the big wave, we finally got it, that'd be such a good ending. But like, so I was really conflicted on the inside, like half of me like, yes, like boundaries, like let's fuck this stupid stigma in the sports industry, but then the other part of me was like, go surf. So it was really interesting for me, like being stuck between the two. But I'm glad that I have that like skate background where I know the pressure as well, because I think it allowed me to be a bit more compassionate and understanding. Whereas maybe I would have.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're having this conversation because, like I said, like I felt that same conflict, and it's interesting, hearing you talk about like it's supposed to be fun, and like I agree 100%, and yet it's like if you are like this is where the whole like fun, passion, lifestyle versus like work comes
Well,
in,
yeah,
because like it is supposed to be fun, and if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be doing it. But we're not necessarily like when you're talking about like these companies have paid you to do a thing, then now you're not just doing it for fun. Now you're doing it's like a job, like,
yeah.
or,
It's a really
so
weird.
it changes it.
Yeah, it does change it, and like, I don't really do much with skate boobs anymore because it's like that's the problem that we started to deal with. Like, we started off as just a group of friends, like posting stupid Instagram content, and like none of us are like amazing professional skateboarders. It was more the messaging, and the reason we were getting like ads was more because we were like at that time where like girl skating just suddenly had that like big boom, and we were sort of more trying to encourage like women, queer people, non-binary people to like learn, because we were learning, so we were like trying to bring them on our journey of learning. And then yeah, all of a sudden there was like this pressure to like always post content and like stay relevant and like make money and all this stuff, and then it just became horrible. Like that we were, we never agreed to be colleagues or like business partners. We were mates, like smoking weed and like going and skating. Like it was completely different all of a sudden, having to be like, have you checked the emails? Like, we need to do this, like see you at 7 a.m. Like that was horrible. It just doesn't blend well with like with what we started as. So we've like majorly taken a chill on that, and I've focused on filming. And with filming, it can be a bit the same because, like, I guess that's just the nature of. That's why people love like having a 9 to 5, because you can switch off and you know when to switch off, and the boundaries between like your passion and your self-worth are clearly defined. But yeah, I think surfers have a hard one with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. And I've been talking to this through doing this podcast. Like I've interviewed so many people who have started organizations, whether they be skating or actually surfing, with the same thing. Like, oh, I was learning and I wanted to create a safer space for, people like me and women and queer and non-binary and all of that. Like I've heard that story from so many different people now, which is amazing. Like it's so rad that there are so many people who are, inspired to create those sorts of spaces. It's
Yeah,
beautiful. But you're the first one that has really spoken to that I'm sure is true for a lot of people. It's like you do it and it starts out as like a WhatsApp group chat of
yeah.
like, well, hey, it's going to be more fun for me if I'm at the skate park with others like me, and like, yeah, and then all of a sudden you get some like type A, person that then has this bigger vision that no, we need to go bigger and bigger and bigger, and trying to
I think I probably
find.
was that person at the time who was being like pushing it into that direction. Being, we get one brand thing and it makes you feel good, and like, at the beginning it's just so fun and you feel so validated and so seen, and like I probably was like a big part of pushing us down that route, I think. Because like I love business. Like I said, I love running Foundry. Like I find it so fun. I'm sure it's the same with you in the podcast. Like it's so nice seeing something grow. But it's also so hard when we didn't all agree to that in the first place. Like that's not what they signed up for, and like it just spirals out of control. And then everyone wants to, we were at that age. I was like 18, 19, and for a hot minute we were like all living in the city, skating all the time, every day. Lockdown happened, so we just like make loads of stuff and like come up with ideas and like plan events for when it ended and like all this fun stuff. And then life just hit us in the face and everyone moved away, and all of a sudden there was only 2 of us in the city, and all the responsibilities are left onto like 1 or 2 people, and people get disenfranchised and resentful or whatever. It just gets fucking stressful. And now we just decided to just take it back to what it was at the beginning, which is just like no pressure, skating when you want to skate. I mean, we haven't really posted much content in ages because it's just the constant need for content is quite soul destroying.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. I think that there's this idea in, you know, I don't, how old are you? And you're in your 20s maybe?
Yeah, 23.
Yeah, so I'm like the old lady here in my mid 40s. And I feel like I hear this conversation among like my peers, people my age, talking about how, oh, you know, 20-year-olds, like, you know, that generation, like nobody wants to work because, you know, they all grew up getting participation prizes, and, you know, they have these like new child led, you know, schools where it's like, oh, if you don't feel like studying math, you don't have to. And we're, you know, and I feel like I'm curious to hear what you think. What do you think about that? Do you think that that's accurate, that there are more people, like, just with the influencer culture and all of this, like, it feels like maybe people of your generation, there's more of a culture of like, no boundaries, and I'm going to work from home, and I'm going to set my own schedule, and I'm going to do, you know, I'm
Yeah,
going to do it my way, or I'm not going to do it at all. That just didn't exist when I was 20.
it's hard. I think it's a combination of, I don't know what your experience of lockdown was, but I think it's a combination of social media and lockdown has like made everyone incredibly atomized and like individualistic, and we're like very inward looking and like self-analyzing and self-analytical all the time. Like, what do I have? Like, what's wrong with me? And like, oh, why am I like this? And I need these boundaries. And I do think that's really powerful in a lot of ways. And like, you know, I learned I was neurodivergent, and like it was amazing for me to understand sort of a lot of self-worth issues I had growing up. And a lot of the time I feel like I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum where like I just want to work all the time, and like I'm obsessed with work. And you know, my mum's like a single mom, self-made like businesswoman, and I've always really looked up to her, but she was also like obsessed with work, and like all her self-worth I think just rested on like external, like getting work and being seen as independent woman, powerful. And I think that's also really, really toxic. And I think I've sort of got a bit of that learned behavior where like I just take it all a bit too seriously, and like I would find it hard to talk to the sort of boundaries thing. I mean, like especially in the film industry, like I've had some horrible experiences in the last year. I worked on this film, and I spoke about it on another podcast I was on, where like this guy was just like this director was being, talk about boundaries, there were literally no boundaries. He was just constantly making horrible sexual comments and making me do way more than my job description. I barely got paid. Like I really just did not get paid properly, and the whole experience was a joke. And I really wish I could have been like, what the fuck, mate? Like, no, stop, what is going on? But I just kept doing it because I kept thinking I should be grateful for this opportunity, and like this is such a hard industry, and I need to just be grateful and try really hard, and like this might lead to something else. Like, no, it fucking won't. It fucking won't. Like, just stop. You're gonna fucking break yourself. And now, and I think that's really sad. And I also think probably seems like a lot of my generation are like, don't really want to go through the discomfort to make it, or you know, they're too keen on saying no too quickly if it gets hard. But I don't know if that's more just like people feel a bit disillusioned with it all. Like property here is so expensive, the job market is like really shite for anything creative. You're constantly bombarded with images of people doing better than you online. Like all you see is just like, it just feels like everyone's living their best life because who's going to post the shit stuff? And then I just feel people just feel a bit like bummed out. Like I just feel like people feel a bit bummed out. Like I don't know what it's like over there, but here it is, people struggling, to be honest. I think that makes you a bit less willing to put up with more shit because you're just already like, what's the fucking point if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that from your perspective. And it does feel like it's almost like when you describe, you know, your mom and the way that she lived, and that makes sense because that probably I'm guessing here at her age, but like her generation was probably like one of the first generations to be like, oh yeah, a single mom can like make it, because like probably the generation before her,
Yeah.
like that wasn't, you had to be married, you could barely have a credit card, and then it's like, then that next generation is like, no, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to work my ass off to support my
Yeah.
kids and work, work, work. And that's my identity, and then I'm kind of like in between. And then I can see when you describe it from your perspective, it makes perfect sense that why, you tried that working for that director and like, kind of like, okay, I'm going to do like what my mom would have done. I'm going to work my ass off because it's going to lead to something better. And then you're like, hold on, it's not. So then it's like, now that the pendulum has swung to the other side of like, well, I'm not going to do it because if I don't like it, I'm not having fun, I can't afford a house anyway. Like, no, I'm just going to say no.
Yeah. And it comes from a privileged place. Like, I can't speak for everyone, but like, it is a privilege being able to say, I mean, I think it should be a right, but it's obviously a privileged position to turn down work and like to be able to say no and to also feel so much self-worth that you don't deserve to be treated like that, or you deserve to be paid more, or you don't deserve to be spoken like that, or even just that you're not going to enjoy it. Like, I think that's a great place to be in, and I want people to feel like that, and I want people to feel like they can and are worthy enough to say no. And the only reason I let that dick keep treating me like that for so long and not pay me is because I didn't. And it was like my first proper job out of the industry. I mean, out of uni in the industry. And I felt like I should do it. And like I wasn't like good enough to say, can you fuck off? And eventually I did. And it felt great. And, maybe I'm wrong in saying that it's because everyone feels disillusioned and depressed and they feel like they just can't be asked. Maybe it's because people feel more secure and like, I'm not sure, like I'm just working it out, but it could be the opposite. It could be that people feel more secure and they are more aware of their self-worth, and people haven't had it so shit, and we've had a better upbringing, we've had it more easy as kids, like you said, and we just like, things were like more child-led, and now we understand our boundaries more. But that's probably a good thing, especially in the film industry.
Yeah.
So much that goes on. I mean, also the surf industry. Did you watch that film, Maya and the Wave?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
I'm excited to see it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Crying. It was so good, and like, just made me think like the shit we have to go through. Like, fucking hell, it's bullshit. The men in that film are so annoying, and I feel like a lot of people are just tired of people saying it. Like, we're a broken record talking about the shit women have to go through. But that film really made me think we can't shut up yet. Like, we're not there yet. She
Yeah.
really had to go through so much.
Yeah.
And it also...
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, no, I was recently at I was at a film festival in Florida, and we were talking about that film. And I was at breakfast as the only woman with some men in the surf industry, mostly like older men. And I'm so used to speaking to women, and like everybody gets it. It's like, yeah, I don't have to explain to you the shit we put up with, and you don't have to explain to me because we have lived it and we get it. And so, and I feel like, with the whole Me Too movement and like culture has shifted, and now it feels to me like everybody kind of gets it. If maybe they don't get it on the same level because they haven't experienced it, that it at least shouldn't be like news, the things that we've went through. And I was with these men, and I felt like they didn't get it. And I was like, you don't realize the things I've been through? Like, how could you not? And so it, like you said, it's like, it really is still so pervasive, even more than I realized.
And I think that's the problem. Like, that's a real problem with social media that I think is like really bad, is that it creates echo chambers. And like, you do just start to live in a bubble, and you just like, the algorithm just feeds you what you want to hear. It just feeds your own life back to you. It feeds your own experiences back to you. You only follow people that you agree with. And then like, that's what's happening. And like, those men like aren't, their feeds aren't the same as ours, and they're not hearing the same experiences in person, and then we just get like pushed in different directions, I think, by social media. And like, it really scares me, because like, that's why people get radicalized, and that's why it all feels like we're just pitted against each other. Like, it's the left versus the right, and like everyone's just got more extreme because we're just being like completely radicalized by the media. there's like 2 different news stories. They'll, one event will happen and there's 2 completely subjective stories written about it from each angle, and like you will get fed one, and like we don't get objective media anymore. So yeah, like the echo chambers are terrifying, and probably like, yeah, I think they just make us all feel quite separated. But yeah, it's weird when you speak.
And that's where the filmmaker has to come in and make the film that shows it from all sides, or shows it a different way, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I guess like as a filmmaker, you want to be as unbiased as possible. That Maya and the Wave film, man, so good. If anyone's listening and they haven't watched that film, they should watch. Is it even out yet?
I don't think so, or maybe it is, but I don't know. I only started hearing about it I saw like at a screening that a friend posted, a friend that's in the big wave world posted, and then I heard about it like from these film festival bros, but I hadn't heard about it previously. But I don't know. I'm out of the loop down here in Costa Rica.
I saw it at a festival as well on the Isle of Tyree called Sea Change. It was like all about sort of the sea. It was a great festival. And it was very mainly women-led festival, so it was really great. But yeah, it's just crazy, like the big wave world, and the men are so annoying in that film. The way they're like, she gets injured, and then they're like, she's putting those men's lives at risk, making him save her. And then when a man gets injured, they're like, wow, so brave. It's so annoying.
What are you working on now?
Currently, I just did a little advert with the women's Chelsea football team. So that was with 3 Mobile and the women's Chelsea football team. So I got to meet some epic women in football, which was sick and really fun to do something like a little bit different. And I'm currently working on a documentary about my mum, actually. Sort of developing it on a course called the Scottish Doc Institute, called Bridging the Gap. And because my mum runs like a sex page, like a positive aging page. So we're sort of exploring her views on aging and sex over 60 and stuff like that.
Wow, epic.
Yeah, it was great. And then also, like, I really would like to take White Horses and do it on a bigger scale. Like, I tried to get in touch with Patagonia, but I couldn't get in touch with them. So if anyone listening has contact with Patagonia, I'd love to have a little talk with them. But I think they love their films, and I'd love to do White Horses as like a longer version somewhere where Emily could like really just like follow her own journey, rather than like with that film, because we were working with such a small budget on such a tight time frame. It was quite regimented, and like it was really made like kind of like a sports film rather than like a documentary. Do you know what I mean? Like we're like, okay, we have to get here now, we have to get there now, like we have to get this shot now. And it'd be great if actually I could have a horse, Emily could have a horse, and I just follow her with a camera, rather than having to have a big crew. And like we could do it somewhere like, it'd be sick to do it in like New Zealand or somewhere where there's gonna be waves, and she can really explore the combination between horses and surfing, because this wasn't really that, because there was no surfing. So I'd love to take that in a bigger direction and do it as a longer film, and we could sort of use White Horses as like a test piece, proof of concept. But I've been a bit busy, but I really want to try and find someone who wants to give us a proper budget for that. But I'm just speaking out into existence at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that's the way these things happen, right? You say it, speak it into existence. I mean, I grew up riding horses, and once I started surfing, I put my horseback riding aside, because I was like a competitive horseback rider, and I was like at that point where I had to sort of choose, because they were both getting very time consuming. Yeah. But then when I moved to Central America, then I got back into riding horses, and horseback riding is a big part of a bunch of our different retreat locations. And I think that the feeling of galloping, I mean, I'm sure you're not really doing that a whole lot when you're like with a surfboard and a pack and everything. But that feeling of galloping along the beach at sunset is just like one of my favorite things. Like it's just so just talk about being in like peak flow of that moment of feeling like both just completely in the moment and like connected to everything, you know, like connected to this animal and the adrenaline, and it's incredible.
I know. I just think we can learn so much from horses. Like they just like can give us instant feedback on like the energy we're giving off, and like, you know, if you're in a shit mood and like you're really being impatient, like they really are, like they will not really respond well. And like, you know, my mum always used to say to me, in life, like generally feedback in life is like the energy you give is the energy you get back. And like horses are, I think, they really emphasize that. You know, if you're like really, really anxious and you're with a horse or riding a horse, they will be really anxious. And like, if you're fucking angry and you have no patience, like the horse will be like, get the fuck off, mate, what are you playing at? But if you're really calm and relaxed and like you just want to make it work, they're the same. And I think like life's just sort of the same, really. And yeah, I absolutely love horses. I want to make like a cowboy skate edit where like two people dressed as cowboys come into a skate park and then they get off and they're wearing like cowboy boots and then they're like, you rallying Italian, and then they whip out their guns, but it's not a gun, it's a skateboard, and then they have a skate off.
Sick.
Sick.
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Do you ever make it over into warm water, or you're primarily a cold water human?
When was the last time I went into warm water? I go to Mallorca quite often, but I don't do any surfing. I just lie around. I love cold water. I really, really like cold water. I just spent a month living on the Isle of Lewis, looking after someone's cows, and renovating my van, and I did a lot of cold water swimming, and I just love it. It really quietens my mind, and like weight sort of just puts everything in perspective when I feel like I'm so cold I might die. And there's quite good surfing where I was. I was in a place called Uig in Manchester, which is like a really, really remote island. I loved it so much. And I think there's some people who surf that. There's a beach there called Manchester Beach. The waves are fucking huge. I'm just too scared to go in somewhere so remote, like on my own. I just get really scared I'm going to get dragged out and die. Because that isn't going to happen to you when you're skateboarding. That just isn't going to. That is not a worry that I'm going to get sucked out by a huge, enormous force.
No, you said you're gonna like slam onto concrete. That doesn't sound fun either.
That's fine. That's fine by me. Smashing into a wave is like slamming onto concrete. I mean, the only time I've ever really done any surfing, like bigger wave surfing, was in Indonesia, and I really didn't know what I was doing. And they took me out on a boat because it was like an offshore wave, and I just know nothing about surfing. And then they just dropped me off. I see this guy come out of the water like covered in blood. I'm like, why is that guy covered in blood? And then I was just thinking, that's so weird. Why is he covered in blood? And then I literally caught one wave and immediately ate shit, and then realized there was a coral reef there, and then I was covered in blood. And then I was like, oh, that's why that guy's covered in blood. So my experiences have not been good with surfing, but I'll get back in.
I mean, it sounds like just a lack of experience, I guess. Like we could fix this.
I think I need common sense.
You could learn about how I mean, I get it. The ocean, when you don't have the experience, seems terrifying, and it is terrifying sometimes. So that's fair.
I've done a lot of scuba, so I've spent a lot of time under the water and kind of understand that shit more. But like Emily went on the surf trip, the way she was talking about the waves, it's like so scientific. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Weather system? I have no idea what that means. Okay, bud.
That's hilarious.
Well, yeah.
Right on. All right. This is great. I'm trying to think what else to
You can't talk to me about surfing.
what else to ask you. No, but I like the conversation that we got into. I think it's an important one to talk about because I really do think that there is that balance between like being able to like put your head down and do something even though it's not pleasant because you know that it's going to be worth it in the end, and also knowing where you have to have that boundary to be like, you know what, I don't actually have to do this because me enjoying this moment is just as important. And I think that that really is the struggle. And as culture goes, you know, too far in one direction, and then the next generation comes and corrects and goes too far in the other direction, and then like all of us together have to figure out like where is that like healthy middle ground. And like I'm a mom, and so I have, my kids are 8 and 10, and I think that that's something that I come up against like all the time with them, because it's like I signed my daughter up for some, you know, she's been doing aerial silks and she's really good at it and she seemed to really like it, but then she didn't really love the teacher and then she wanted to quit. And this is where like my mom would have been like, you're not quitting, like I paid for these lessons and I don't care if you don't like the teacher and you're going to do it. And then I would have like resented my mom, you know, but then, and so I've noticed myself wanting to do that same thing to my daughter, but then I'm like, no, but I'm going to respect that, dad, that teacher is kind of a bitch. Like, I understand why you don't like that teacher, but then it's at the same time, it's like, but there is a life lesson in
Yeah.
learning how to, like,
So
even though you don't like the teacher, like, how are you going to figure out a way to exist? Because you're not always going to like the teacher at anything, or your boss or your roommate, or I don't know, whatever. And I think that that is the challenge, is trying to find like how much discomfort should we endure for like some benefit down the road, versus like saying, no, this isn't fun, so why am I doing it, and like in which situations.
yeah, it's hard. Like it's resilience, isn't it? Like how do you teach resilience? And it's like sport is a really good one for it, isn't it? Because like it is painful. Like growing muscle hurts. You have to go through like exhaustion and like tear new muscles to make muscles. It's like painful and it's exhausting. And like sometimes you can't be asked to work out. Or like having animals. I also feel like having animals is really good for that shit, because can't be asked to like clean out my hamster cage. It smells. Can't be bothered. It's boring. I want to play on my Nintendo. But like it teaches you, all these things. It's like all the little things. And cold water has been like so good for me for that, because like it just reminds me, you really don't want to get in. Like it's so cold. Everything in your being is like, don't fucking get in that water. Are you mental? Like let's stay warm and let's preserve our energy. And then afterwards, like your skin's burning and you feel like, holy shit, I'm so alive. Like it feels so good. And like learning to go through discomfort for that good feeling is just so powerful. And like you have to have that in order to, I think, emotionally regulate yourself. Like you have to be able to do it. And for a long time I used to just do that with weed, and I used to just smoke so much weed, and like it's all I would do. And it took me a really long time to be able to stop that, and I only emotionally regulate myself through weed. And it's through things like cold water and like animals and nature that I've really managed to like, let go of that. But it's a hard thing to teach. I can't imagine having like trying to work out how to teach that to a kid, and working out, letting them work out their own boundaries. And like, it must be so hard.
For sure, because and then like you know, like your film shows, like it is an important conversation to be like, nah, but it's also okay to be like, this isn't fun and I'm over it and I'm just going to go home. Because
Yeah.
I feel like that story, I mean, I like it. After I watched your film, like I felt like I wanted to have this conversation and like really talk about it, because if she had just stayed and like got the waves and then said, oh, I did it, like that would have felt satisfying in a sense, but it also wouldn't have, like it wouldn't have caused this conversation. And that
Yeah.
is important to have too. It's like, where is the boundary?
And it would have encouraged this sort of mentality that the worth we get out of it is like how good we perform. Which I guess if you're a pro like is different, but at the end of the day, like with everything, there is just like a fundamental thing that we should just enjoy it, I think. Maybe not as much during, but at least after, like not be like, why the hell did I do that? That was that was annoying. And like, it's hard. It's hard when I was watching Emily and she was so angry with herself in the surf, because it's just hard to watch, because it's even though I get it and I've been there myself, it's just hard to watch, because it's like, you're great, don't be so fucking hard on yourself. Why are we always so hard on ourselves? Like, just chill out. Like, it's gonna be fine. But we just like bully ourselves all the time, and I don't know, over everything. Like, it's just exhausting. We all live inside these minds where we're like just so cruel to ourselves. And like, I think that if we could just all be a bit kinder to ourselves, then those boundaries would all be a bit easier, and we'd sort of know that balance a bit more, because we wouldn't constantly be playing these games with ourselves of like, but you need to do this and you need to achieve this and people judging you. Like, if we could just sort of work towards that, I think that would be the best way.
So how do you do that when you notice yourself getting angry at yourself or having those intrusive thoughts? Like, what's your method to step outside of that or overcome it or quiet them or whatever?
Well, I've only really just learned it, because I spent a long time on antidepressants, and then I spent a long time smoking a lot of weed, and like I came off the antidepressants, and weed was great. It can be really great. I don't think I would have come off the antidepressants if I hadn't started smoking loads of weed. I'm really glad I stopped, because that's how I used to do it. And since then, like, I guess I journal every single day. I'm obsessed with journaling. I absolutely love journaling. And I never read it back. I just like kind of taking that time to write about my day. And I guess I really believe in like self-talk and inner self-talk. And like, firstly, I just think the first step is just becoming aware of the internal dialogue you have with yourself. And like, I think the first thing, and not trying to change it, not judging yourself, just listen to the tone you use when you talk to yourself. And like, I think that's the first step. If you can become aware, I think a lot of the time we do it really subconsciously. Like, we're really critical. It might be visually, the way when you look in the mirror, like you're just focusing on, I hate that about myself. Like, I get really obsessed with this thing here. I don't know what it is. It's always there. And like, every time I catch myself looking at it or thinking about it, I try and use that as a trigger to say something nice to myself. And then I started doing this thing where I look in the mirror, and people think I'm a bit insane when it comes to this, but I just look myself in the eyes, and then I say, I am loved, I am peaceful, I am kind, I am creative, I am powerful. And then I just repeat those mantras, like, dependent on whatever I'm feeling like I'm not. And I repeat them. And sometimes I do tapping, but like, I just repeat them. And that really helped, because sometimes people will struggle even to just look themselves in the eyes, and people will struggle even more to look themselves in the eyes and say the words like, I am kind, or like, I'm a good person, or I'm beautiful, or like whatever it is you really don't believe about yourself. Change it. Like, why the hell live your life like believing you're a piece of shit? It's exhausting. And I used to have these thoughts that I was a bad person. And I think having a thought that you're actually inherently a shitty person is actually, I found, a lot harder than anything physical, because like, you're just being so mean to yourself. And I imagine you're talking to a kid like that or whatever. I just think first notice the way the dialogue you do have with yourself, then work out where you're being really critical, and then just tell yourself the absolute opposite every time you catch yourself doing it. But fake it till you make it.
That's it. 100%. I mean, I think that, you just nailed it right there. If every single person did that, it would make such a huge difference.
Yeah. And then I
think you're right.
It'd be easy to either say yes or no, or know your boundaries, because then you either have the self-worth of like, actually, I can do this, I can catch this wave, or like, I can withstand this shitty work environment because I'm really strong. Or you'd know, actually, I don't really have the energy for this right now. I don't think I need this shit. And we'd all be able to, I think, listen to ourselves a bit more and like navigate that, rather than quickly jumping to like, fuck this, can't do it, or I have to do this, I have to keep going because I feel like I deserve to, like, I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Crush it.
Glad we worked that out.
Yeah.
We solved one of the questions of life.
Yes. Perfect. And thank you so much for your vulnerability in modeling that and sharing your personal journey with it. And that I think is the benefit that your generation is coming up with. Not to say that people of my generation, nobody had that, but I think that it has become much more prominent, at least in our own little echo chamber, of which I
Yeah.
seem to be a member of the same one as you.
Yeah, it's a good one to be in. We are open and I think vulnerable, and people were talking about shit that hasn't really been talked about openly before. I think men have a bit further to come with that, but I hope that they can get there, and I want to support men to be able to feel equally vulnerable and open and talk about shit they struggle with, because I think it's really hard for them. But I'm really glad that we've got that. And thank you for like giving me the space and listening to me and asking me nice questions. And I'm sorry I'm not I'm sorry I'm not Emily.
No, it's great. I'm glad. Like, honestly, like when I realized that you were an Emily, I'm like, I was a little bit relieved because I wanted to ask that, but like, it's easier to ask it to you. And I love that, you were like, yeah, I get it, but also the filmmaker in me was like, ah, and so like, yeah,
Yeah.
that allowed the perfect space to be able to talk about that. So I'm glad that that's how it worked out.
Okay, good. It was really, really nice to chat. Thank you so much for having me on. And I hope one day I can come to one of these epic retreats and get over my
Yeah, we do them in cold water too. We have one in Portugal, so if
Portugal's
you
cold.
want
I
to keep.
realized it was hot.
That's what I'm saying. Like Portugal's cold compared to Costa Rica.
I kind of like the idea of Costa Rica. Where's the horse one? Where's one where I can do horses as well?
In Costa Rica, we ride horses. In Nicaragua too, but I feel like the horse ride in Costa Rica is pretty sick. You ride down like
Oh my god.
past the end of the road in southern Costa Rica, so you're like in like an indigenous reserve where there's no roads, and it's
Oh
like
my
really
god.
wild and remote and beautiful, and there's like
Just cut
nice
out.
like horses that have been well cared for and like good saddles, and yeah, it's a really
Oh,
cool experience.
that is sick. I
Yeah,
really
it's
want to try
beautiful.
that. I'm really, really. I'll start saving because that sounds like a complete dream.
Yeah,
Um,
well, and keep in touch because I would love to see the Wild Horses Part 2 or
yeah,
2.0.
hell yeah. And if anyone wants to watch it,
Sick.
just check it out on thefoundryfilms.com. And yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you have. What time is it there?
Yeah, we'll link to all the things. So our podcast producer her name is Emma, and if she hasn't already, I will connect you with her, and then she'll reach out and get like a couple photos because we do like a blog post as well, and then a social media post when the episode comes out, which will probably be soon because I'm like in a recording phase right now. We don't have a ton lined up. And then we'll like link to whatever you want to link to. So probably Foundry Films or your Instagram or whatever
Yeah,
so
sick.
people can find more about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we've got loads of short form like reels and stuff like that. You're welcome
Sick.
to, and like
Awesome.
loads of great pictures. So they're all yours.
Sick. Awesome, Meg. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, and I really enjoyed our chat. That was fun.
Thanks, me too. It was so nice to meet you.
All right, we'll keep in touch.
Bye.